So in our last video, we managed to hook up a web page to a database on the back end, and we did that through PHP and PDO. Now, this is kind of ugly, and I want to make this look better. But before I do that, I want to start taking a look at why I'm using Git. So the last thing we did with Git, well, we did a Git push, but we did a Git commit, which took all the changes that we had, and when you do the commit, it sort of gives you a breakpoint, and you can go back to those commits. And those commits are tracked, and they have numbers. So that's one way we could always back up to where we were before, but I'm actually going to use a different method that's a little bit more convenient. You can use commits, but they're not the most convenient thing in the world. So what I'm going to do is we're going to make a new branch. So if I do Git Status, we are on the master branch. And I modified index.php in the last video. I never committed that, and I'm not going to commit it. I don't want those changes. We are on the master branch. Normally when you're doing development work, you work on a different branch and you reserve master for production. So pretend that this web page was something that people were actually interested in and coming to visit. This we would keep on the master branch. We would do work on a different branch, and then when we were convinced that the different branch or the things we were working on were correct, then we would merge those into the master branch. Now, we've used GitHub in the past, and when we did that, we used forks. We're going to do something different here, and we're going to use branches. Branches and forks are similar. Branches are normally used when you're doing stuff internally. You use forks when you're doing the name just escaped me. Hang on a second. As soon as I pause the video, I remembered it. So when you're working with open source software and you can have anybody contributing, that's when you use forks. It's a minor difference, and the terminology is slightly different. Anyways, I don't want to be on the master branch. I'm going to create a new branch. So I'm going to git checkout. I'm going to create a new branch, and I'm going to call this PHP arrays, because in this branch we are going to study how PHP arrays work. Okay, and we'll do a Git Status, and notice that now we're on branch PHP's arrays. And I don't like this index that I have. I've already created a different index.php elsewhere and tested it, so I'm actually going to bring that in to where we're working now. So let's do that. Okay, so I paused for a second. In a different directory, I had already created a file index2.php, which is has more features in it than index does. I'm going to copy that over to my class webpage index.php. So I'm going to copy right over index.php in the directory I've been working in. And we'll do that. And then, oops, while I'm at it, change back to that directory, and we will vim. Oh, apparently I turned caps lock on. Okay, so we won't go through quite too much detail yet, but notice this is definitely a different index.php than we had before. There's a lot more code in here than there was before, so many for loops. Okay, let's keep out of here, and let's check on my Git Status. Okay, so index.php has been modified. I know this is in a place where I want it to be, so I'm going to commit and put it in a message. And while I'm at it, Really regretting I put that password in there. Hope I did the right thing. Okay. So by doing Git Push Origin, Origin is really the remote repository up on GitLab. So by doing this, I've actually created now a branch up on GitLab of PHP arrays. I'm not worried about that right now. What I want to do is go back here and look at the output on this web page. So I want to make that smaller. This is what a PHP array looks like. And it's kind of a different beast. So notice that, okay, so this is in Python, you have arrays which are indexed by integers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you have dictionaries which can be indexed by strings or other things like this, right? Okay, so in PHP, arrays actually come with both kinds of indexes. So in this array, this means this is the index, this is the value. But notice this value appears twice. So in this array, I can say array 0, or I can say array sub emp number, employee number. So Georgie Facello's employee number is 1001. These things, because we've got these through PHP and PDO from a database, these are actually column names in that table. So we got this from the employees table, and the columns in employees table are employee number, birth date, first name, last name, gender, hire date, and yeah, that's it. But notice every one of these values is in here twice. So this is the employee number, which I can get by accessing through 0 like an array, or I can treat this thing like a dictionary and call it an employee number. So PHP is kind of weird because their arrays are dictionaries and arrays at the same time. I can use birth date, or I can use 1. 1 is the second column. I can use first name or 2, last name or 3, gender or 4, hire date or 5, and they will get me the same information. That's kind of weird. Now this I got by doing a fetch all from the database, and this actually gives a double array. So this is an array. The outer array is only indexed by integers. This is just going to be a bunch of employees. So this is sort of a count of employees, except for, you know, we're computer science, so we start cutting at 0. So this first array is indexed by 0, and this is Samel Bezalel. I don't know how to say that. Here is a second array. This is Pardo Bamford. And then it's really hard to see, right? Third array, this is Christian Koblik. So this outer array only has integers because there was no way to associate, we didn't give it any way to associate any other kind of index with it, whereas this inner array, because it came from a table, this came with column names or by integers. Kind of weird, eh? Okay, so how much time have I got here? Ooh, I've been blathering a little bit. I'm going to show you how to loop through these arrays now. So I'm going to go back to the new index 2 that we've got. Get this thing out of the way. And let's see. For the new web page we've made. Okay, so this looks very similar to what we had before. We include the configuration file that allows us to access the database. We select everything from departments, and now I'm going to just do a fetch all. Remember that in the original version I did a fetch. Now I'm just doing a fetch all, and here I'm just going to print out that fetch all. That's going to be the ugly thing that we were just looking at, and then I'm going to start looping through and making this look a little bit prettier. So I haven't refreshed this web page. I haven't. This is still on the old index that I had. Alright, so I'm going to refresh this. It's going to take a minute. And What happened? Why does it say print R? Oh. Huh. Okay. Not sure what that's all about. Oh, I do know what that's all about. So, sorry, I forgot what I did in my own thing. So this is just showing the print R of the entire array. This is from departments because employees, well, it's a little bit messy. So this is a little bit easier to read. So for departments, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've got 9 departments. Customer service, human resources, development, production, marketing, quality management, research, and sales. For each one of these, so this 0 is pointing to one department, and inside that department we have a department number, a department name, and that's it. Just 2 columns, department number, department name. So those are the 2 columns from that table. We can actually go take a look at that. Let me pause this for a second. Okay, so I logged into on a different connection and opened up the database, opened up MySQL, and did describe departments, and there's the 2 column names, department number and department name. That's what we're seeing here, department number, department name. And again, PHP array is kind of weird, indexed 2 ways, by name of the column, or you can get it as an integer. Sometimes it's convenient to use an integer. Basically, you think about this when you're doing loops. If I loop over this thing, what am I getting? Okay, so now I'm going to look at my code. This one. So this print R is just a print of all the departments. So if I do a select star from departments, and go into this other one, paste that, semicolon, this is what you get. So there's 9 of those as we counted. Okay. Now, introduction to PHP for loops. So I'm going to loop through this array. So departments is a PHP array. There's 2 ways you can do this. You can use a counter. So I'm going to start counting at 0. I'm going to keep going. So this is a for loop. With for loops, you have to have a beginning and end parentheses. And these things are separated by semicolons. And then, let me run my cursor down here. And then, this is the initial value for the counter. So I'm going to start the counter at 0. All arrays start at 0. I'm going to keep going until I get up to, now this is a built-in function in PHP that counts the length of an array. Departments is an array. I'm going to keep going up until I get to length of this array. And this means add 1 to the counter. So you can, if you want to, have the counter go up by 2, by 3, by 4, but if you just want to go up by 1, you can put this plus on the end of this, and that will increase that counter by 1 every time. So this is a shortcut for saying count equals count plus 1. And then inside of that, I'm going to print out the departments indexed by count. Okay. And then we're going to put a new line in between each one. So if I do that in the for loop, I'm going to get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? I'm doing a for loop over this array, and I'm using this index 0, and then 1, and so on. So if I do that, then I first get this array for customer service. So let's take another look. Remember, this is a double array, right? So for each iteration of the loop, I get an array. So this one's the one for customer service. This is the one for development, for finance, for human resources. I put a line break in between each one of these, so they're all on their own new line now. So that's kind of nice. And we can go on. All right, now, so you can do a for loop using a counter in PHP, but that's not really the elegant way to do it. PHP has a built-in for loop structure called for each that will automatically loop over an array. So I'm going to go up to this for each. This is the next one on the board, and the notation's a bit nicer. Okay, so for each, this is the array that we're doing a for loop over, so departments, and we say as, and then this is the loop variable, so departments as department. So each one of these, what page? Each one of these as a department. So we're going to loop over this list. This will be department, and department, department, so on. Okay. And then inside that for each, are we? Inside the for each, we do something very similar to what we did above with the for loop. We print the department. So in this case, department is the same as department sub count. And then we echo a break. So this thing is an index in this array that PHP sets up for you. And then the output, because we're doing the same thing, we're doing the print R of the department and echoing a break. This looks the same. So this for each looks the same as this one. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same basic piece of code as above. I'm doing a single for loop for each departments as, but now I'm going to write it a little bit differently. So we're thinking of this thing as a dictionary, and actually PHP writes it this way. So notice how it has an index and then a pointer and a value. So index, value. It's just like a Python dictionary. We can actually call that code out in the for each loop. So for those departments as, this is the index, this is the value. In PHP we call these keys, right? Keys, values. I'm sorry, in Python this would be key and value. PHP, it's index, value. So I can print out the index, a little space, and then print out as an array of the department, and I'll put a line break in between each one, and if we do that, it only looks slightly different. We get 0 for the index. Now why is 0 the index? Well, because remember on this outer array it was 0 indexed, or it was integer indexed. So we get this. Okay, now how about the double for each? What does that do? So this looks very much like this. You do the for loop over to the departments array as department. We're going to print that array out, but this department is an array, right? So we're going to do a for each over department as column name value, and we're going to print out the column name and value separately. Let's see what we get. We put a little space in front of it so you can sort of see what's happening. Alright, so the double for each. First it prints out the entire array, which has department number and 0, indexing into D109, and then department name and 1 gives us customer service. This is the inner for loop. Department number, that's the index. D109 is the value. The index 0 has the same value as D109, and department name gives us customer service. 1 the same as a different index to the same value, customer service. So you get the feeling that when you do these for loops and you set them up this way, column value, this gives you the key or the index and the value. But in this particular case, because it's a PHP array and the way we've done this call, you get this weird business where you not only get the department number, but you also get the 0. PHP is weird and cool that way. Alright, so one last bit. Got to be running short on time here. When you have an array that's indexed by integers like this, 0, 1, 2, 3, or so ever, in Python, that's what we think of as an array. When you index it this way, by this, like department number, department name, we think of that as a dictionary. In PHP, that's called an associative array. And so you can specify way up here at the top of this thing, we did a fetch. So we had set up this select statement and we did a fetch. Well, it turns out this fetch method, you can put parameters in there. And this particular one, I'm going to have it fetch as an associative array. And then I'm going to do this very same for loop as I did up here with column names and values. And if I look at that, where did you go? Hang on a second. Didn't get any output. Hang on. I got a break. Alright, so I guess when I do this loop again, if I want to redefine what departments is and do a fetch all, I have to redo that select and everything. So I redid the select, did a fetch all, and did a fetch associative. Did this double for loop. And you know what? Maybe excuse me. We'll print out the whole thing too. I know I'm over time for what I normally do. So this is our last one. So this is our list of departments. Notice that with department number, we don't have the 0 D109 that we had. Where'd you go? I'll go all the way to the top here. We're only going to have this because I'm declaring this as an associative array. Okay, so now when I do my double for loop, I'm only going to get department number D109, department name, customer service. This is a little bit actually kind of obnoxious because I'm printing out the whole array of department and then separating it out in a for loop. So I'm getting both the whole array and then I print these things out separately: department number D109, department name, customer service. You know what? Let's clean this up. Let's not do that. So let's get rid of this. And we'll get rid of this. Comments in PHP, double slash. And there we go. So now double for each last, we're just getting department number D109, department name, customer service, department number D05, department name, development. You're going to be doing this last kind of for loop a lot because when you fetch things from a table, you're probably going to do a fetch all, which is going to give you a double list, a double array. The outer array is all the rows of the table, and then the inner arrays, each row has a bunch of columns, right? So this is This for each is going over the rows. This for each is going over the columns. So this kind of thing happens a lot. Okay. Whoo! So we are now yanking information from a database, and hopefully we understand PHP arrays a little bit. You want to do your fetch all. You want to do it that way.